The circumference of the circle is known as the distance around a circle. So this whole thing all around the circle. The distance around the circle is the circumference of a circle. And in order to calculate the circumference, there's a few things that we need. We need to have pi, and pi is 3.14 when we round it. So it's going to be a bunch of numbers, but we usually use a 3.14 when we're rounding it. Okay, we're going to need diameter. And the diameter is the distance from one end of the circle to the other end of the circle. And we need the diameter to be able to calculate the circumference of the circle. And sometimes we don't get the diameter, we're given the radius. And the radius is half of this circle. So you'll get from this point here, you'll be giving the radius. And so we need to use the radius sometimes to calculate the diameter. So once we have that information, we can then use our formula, which is circumference equals pi times diameter. Okay? So let's put this a little bit into practice. So suppose we are giving a diameter of 12. If a diameter is 12, what would be the radius? So we said the radius is always going to be half of what the diameter is because it's right here in the middle. Okay, this would be the radius. So you've got half of it and then you've got another half. So in order to calculate the radius, if we have a diameter, it would be half of that. So we have a diameter of 12, our radius would be 6. And if we have, let's say sometimes they give us only the radius. So what about the other way around? So if we have pi, we're always going to have pi because we already know what pi is. It's always going to be 3.14. And we're given this time the radius, and we're told that the radius is 4. But we need to calculate the diameter because the diameter is what we need in our formula. How do we know what the diameter is going to be? Well, this time we've been given half of the circle. So in order to know what the full side of side is, we times that by 2 because you got 1/2 right here and you got 1/2 over here. So if we got half of it, which is 4, to get the diameter, which is the whole side of side, we have 8, which is the radius times 2. Okay, so let's start with our first circle here. So we're going to calculate the circumference, and this time we're going to be given only the radius. And they're going to tell us, okay, the radius equals 5. All right, so let's write our formula first. So we know we need to calculate the circumference, and the circumference equals pi times d for diameter. Okay, so what do we have? Well, we know what pi is, right? So pi is 3.14. We don't know the circumference yet. That's what we're trying to calculate. And what is the diameter? Do we have a diameter? We don't have a diameter, but we have a radius. And so we said the radius times 2 is the same thing as the diameter. So if the radius is 5, 5 times 2 equals 10. That means our diameter then is 10. All right, so now we can multiply 3.14 times 10 and we get 31.4. Okay, let's do another one. So this time we're going to look at one and they're going to tell us, okay, the diameter, so from one side of the next, the diameter equals 16 centimeters. Okay, and we need to calculate the circumference, so the distance around the circle. And so we know our formula for circumference is C equals pi times d for diameter. Okay, so we've got our pi, which is 3.14, times our diameter. Do we have our diameter? Yeah, we actually got our diameter this time. We were giving the number of 16. So now we can go ahead and multiply. Okay, let's just make sure we have it here. 3.14 times 16 equals 50.24. Now, because they're telling us that it's centimeters, you gotta remember in your answer, you have to say the circumference of the circle is 50.24 centimeters. Okay, we've got one more question to go. Actually, we've got two to go. So the next one will be, this time we're gonna be giving a radius, and the radius is going to be 7. So we get the radius, which is only half. And so the radius equals 7. Okay, so if we're giving the radius equals 7, we know what we need is a diameter, not the radius. So how do we calculate the diameter? Well, the diameter equals, let me write it here for you, diameter equals radius times 2. So 7 times 2 equals 14. So the diameter equals 14. Okay, so we got our formula, which is circumference equals pi times diameter. And so our diameter is 14. So we've got here our pi, which is 3.14, and our diameter is 14. So now we get to multiply 3.14 times 14, and we get 43.96. Now important, if we were told that this was millimeters, okay, so if we were told that this was millimeters, our answer then would have to say the circumference of the circle is 43.96 millimeters. Okay, let's do one last one. So what if in this one we are told once again the diameter? And the diameter for this one is 66. So D equals 66 centimeters. Okay, we're trying to calculate circumference. So circumference is C equals pi times diameter. Do we have pi? Yeah, we know pi is 3.14. And we know the diameter is 66. Okay, so we're ready to multiply. 3.14 times 66 is 207.24. And what are we going to use? We're going to use centimeters. So our answer has to say 207.24 centimeters.